But the hard part with our industry is when you tell the human, I can't help you, it's the dog who suffers. Yep. So we live with this guilt that if I don't help this person, the dog is going to suffer. But it was very expensive. I was in the hospital for 5 days. And then I couldn't work for 6 weeks. And so by doing this one thing, I paid a really severe consequence.
On today's episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat, we talked to Aileen from Dogs of Scottsdale. Talk about how she pivoted in real time and grew her business during COVID. Dive right in. Aileen, thank you so much for joining on another episode of Rise, Grind, Repeat. I am excited about this because you are a true-blooded entrepreneur. Met you at a buddy's wedding and you were starting your own business. And since then, we've gone through this wonderful thing called COVID. And even connecting before this, you'd kind of seen some growth. So it's really cool to see someone that can grow during one of the world's craziest times, in our generation. And so before we get into that, I'd love to just learn more about how you started in your entrepreneurship.
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here. But I got started working with dogs probably about 7 or 8 years ago. Okay. I had a dog that had behavior problems, and I sought out the help of a lot of different trainers, and eventually ended up on an episode of Caesar 911. So my dog was rehabilitated by Caesar Milan and got to go to the dog psychology center. It was really nice to know my dog was bad enough that he needed to go be with the pack and learn from the man himself. And when I was done, I wanted to learn how to help other people, because I learned that the problems that I was having weren't so much with the dog. It was that I didn't have the information that I need to control my emotions. Mm-hmm. And so the dog was feeding off of my emotions, thinking it was doing exactly what I wanted it to do. Yeah. But I did not want him to eat people. So that was kind of how it all got started. And after that, I wanted to help. Specifically, I wanted to help women, but it's really grown into helping anyone who's willing to learn how to do something new and different. So, yeah.
Awesome. So to even start out, it wasn't that you had a passion of doing this. It's just that you identified a problem that was in the marketplace, and sounds like you have more of a passion for helping people, and to help people, it's through their pets, which that's a huge part of everyone's life. People spend more money on their pets than their own kids.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think a lot of times I'll tell them that I work with dogs and they're like, oh, that must be great. But they don't always realize that ideally every dog has a human, and that human is responsible for the outcome. Just like with our businesses, if you don't do certain things, you're not going to get certain results. And so a lot of people, we enjoy our pets as pets, but we forget that they need structures and they need rules and they need things to happen at a certain time. And I help people set that up so that they have a more successful relationship.
That's awesome. So did you start your business 7 years ago, or is that when you started understanding okay, there's a need, this is what I kind of like doing? And was there a couple year ramp up, or did you work with others, or was it hit the ground running, I'm starting my business and it's been going 7 years?
Well, I found a mentor first that I wanted to work with, that I wanted to learn from. And I quit my job, refinanced my house, and I followed him around the country for 3 years.
That's cool.
I had no income. I just lived off of my life savings. I was dedicated to this becoming my life, my whole life. And then at the end of that mentorship period, I started a company in Orange County, California. I did a lot of work in Newport Beach area, and then I landed in Arizona. I don't feel like anyone knows how they get here. And in California, working with dogs in large packs is very popular, but nobody does it here. Yeah. So I was literally an oasis in a desert of this philosophy. I started working with rescues, expanded into more people who own their pets. And we've really grown into now a concierge service.
That's really cool. So over the course of the 7 years, sounds like you've been on that show. Just before this, you're talking about National Geographic. Would love to learn about that story. How did you get on National Geographic?
I saw an ad on Facebook for on Caesar's post saying, do you have a problem dog and would you like to be on Caesar's new show? And I filled it out. It was originally called Rough Neighborhood, and you were supposed to nominate your neighbor, and they called me and said, tell us about your pit bull. And I did, and they were like, oh, we want to work with him and we want to work with you. And it's funny because when you watch the show, they make it sound like someone nominated me and I didn't know, but you can tell how bad of an actress I was, because when Caesar came up to help me, I was shocked and just a really bad actress. I was like, oh, Caesar, you're here to help me. And yeah, I thought my friends were playing a joke on me.
Really?
Yeah, but they really wanted me on the show. So they really wanted Titan on the show. Titan was my dog at the time. So yeah.
What was that experience like?
It was life-changing. It was honestly I was in a really bad relationship. And when I saw it play out on TV, it was, I don't want to say embarrassing, but we broke up on the show and you could see that like this chaotic piece of my life was taking away the one thing I wanted, which was a good relationship with my pet. And so when I removed this piece, the other piece got a lot better. And that's what I wanted to help people understand, that it wasn't about, sit, stay, lay down. Yeah. It was about your whole life.
Yeah.
And when we talk about your energy and who you are and what you bring to the table, that is everywhere. It's not just at work. It's not just with your friends. It's in everything that you do. And it really travels out.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It sounds like you've had a lot of epiphany during that little time stint. And one, I mean, just from a personal perspective, but even just a business perspective, it sounds like a lot of clarities came out from that. And I guess fast forward to what you're doing now, I'd love to explain, what is your company and what is it exactly that you do?
So I own Dogs of Scottsdale, and we focus on three things: training, exercise, and boarding. And we are a membership program. So people apply to be a part of our pack. And once you're a part of our pack, you can be in our training programs. Dogs that participate in our training programs are allowed to board with us if their owners are traveling. And they're also allowed to participate in our day program. Sorry, my baby's.
Oh, you're good.
They're also allowed to participate.
The story.
To participate in our day program. And our day program is where we pick them up, we spend the day training and exercising them, and then we bring them home. And so we are really more of a community than we are like a brick and mortar business where you bring your dog for daycare. We focus on, every part of the canine life experience and supporting owners however they need. So, when dogs come and board with us, they're with us in our house. Like, for example, we had one dog that had really bad separation anxiety. It slept in our room every single night for the last 5 nights.
Really?
Yeah. So we wanted him to feel safe. So it's nice to know that like you're leaving your dog in not only professional and capable hands, but with someone who cares about them as a member of their own family. And right now we have about 90 clients.
Wow. Wow. And I mean, what were you guys at before the pandemic?
We actually had so many people try to get in during the pandemic that we have a wait list of just as many. We have a wait list of 90 and a book of 90.
Wow. So
my biggest problem right now is finding qualified people to come and work for us.
So that's all that's stopping you from doubling the business is finding the people.
Yeah. I've offered large sums of money to my peers in California. People don't want to live in Arizona. It's really, I think it's tough it's a tough environment for dogs. And it's a tough environment when people live in Southern California to convince them to come here.
Yeah.
But I also really like hiring.
Show them the home values. I mean, just what their money could buy for homes out here compared to California.
Oh my gosh, it's nuts. It's crazy.
Right.
But I also think that I also really like working with people who are very green. And so I like hiring people that don't have any experience, and I like teaching them. I love the mentorship part of my job. And I think that as a business, we go through phases of what's important to us and where our values are. Yep. And there's a time when growth is important. There's a time when making sure the employees are happy is important. And then there's a time where, like right now, I'm 36 weeks pregnant and I'm going to be going on maternity leave. And so organizing everything so that I can leave and knowing that everyone will be safe, happy, and taken care of is where our priority has been the last couple months. And then I'm going to spend my maternity because I can't not work.
Yeah.
I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to call it maternity leave, and I'm going to be looking at that computer every day. Mm-hmm. We both know that, right? Yep. So I'm going to be spending that time. I always go through what I call a period of downsize to uprise, where you take a step back, organize things a new way, figure out what your next area of growth is, and then do it. So now it'll be interesting watching people come out of COVID. Is the travel industry going to bounce back quickly? Because in the summer, we closed down 2/3 of our training program and become essentially a pet hotel.
Really?
Yeah. And we bill more in the summer than we do 9 months out of the year.
That is insane.
Yeah. We have people who leave for 5 and 6 weeks at a time and leave their dogs with us, and they leave the state and they go and travel to Europe or Florida.
So even during COVID, when people aren't traveling or anything like that, I mean, that demand has increased like that?
Not so much for boarding. This last summer was really weird. It was quite an adaptation for us. Like we continued to run our day program, and there were people who traveled, but it was a way smaller percent. Mm-hmm. So for us, we just kept running our day program, which was hard because it was combined with Arizona's hottest summer in 100 years. I think we had 4 flat tires, and every time you get one, you're on the side of the road to AAA. And I'm like, I'm pregnant. I have 8 dogs. I need someone to come help me. But as long as you have air conditioning, you're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. So it was definitely, I mean, we made it. It was still a pretty big summer for us, but it helped us realize that there was other things that we could do during the summer to alleviate some of what we were going through at home when we have all these boarding dogs. In a regular summer, we may have, 25 dogs a day boarding. And then this summer we had maybe like 7 to 10. Yeah. So people were still traveling, but they weren't.
Yeah. I mean, you're good at identifying a problem and kind of shifting the business based off of where those needs are and being able to fulfill. One thing that you mentioned that I love and appreciate is the fact that you said we're not a typical brick and mortar. We're building more of a sense of community. Was that done by accident, or why such the importance on building a community?
Well, I think when we expanded and brought on more team members. Mm-hmm. My first team member was my husband. So I work and live with my husband full time, and we work out of where we live with living, breathing creatures that do a variety of things that could cause stress mm-hmm. in a home, right? So after we got married and we brought on other team members, I really felt like I had to focus on helping the people be happy, because it wasn't about the numbers anymore. It was a different metric system. Yeah. I wanted people to want to be there. I wanted our employees to feel safe. And I had to look at some of the canine members of our program and say, just because I can take care of this dog, it doesn't mean that everybody has the same skill. Yeah. And when you put people in a situation where their skill doesn't match what the situation demands, not only does it create unhappiness, it creates an issue with safety. And so I just started focusing on what was best for everybody involved. And what I learned on my Caesar 911 episode, and what I have constantly learned through mentorship and education, is that in order to have a happy community, sometimes you have to remove some pack members in order to be able to move forward in a healthy way. Because otherwise it becomes a virus, yeah, and it takes over everything and it ruins everything and no one can go anywhere. And I really focused on just having like a healthy work environment for everyone, where everyone felt safe. And I wanted the dogs to feel safe too. Yeah. So, No,
I love that, because I mean, something that we do here is, I mean, someone comes on, here's the things that we like you to do, but over time it's really trying to understand, what is it that makes you happy? What do you get up and enjoy doing? Let's figure out how to basically make you do those roles, because at the end of the day, it's if you're doing what you're loving, the end result for the client is going to be that much better because their heart and soul's into it. If you're forcing someone to do something they don't like, they're begrudgingly do it. It's not going to be of the best quality. And so it's like, it just works out for everyone. They're happy. The client's happy because you're getting better work. Have you noticed that the quality of work or your clients are that much happier as you started trying to, I guess, align people with their happiness or traits, and how I guess that equates to the dogs that they're training and stuff?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm in the car a lot. I probably drive like 300 miles a day.
Jeez.
So I get a lot of input, and I love business podcasts. And one of the ones that I listened to, he was talking about how in a company, everyone writes their own rules. So I will ask someone, this is what I need you to do. And after they've been with us for a while, I say, do you enjoy this task? No. Great. You don't do that anymore. Tell me what you like, and that's where we're going to put you, because that's what I need. Yeah. I'll take whatever it is because I want more. I want more from that employee, and I want them to take over bigger parts of the business, which is weird because for a long time I was very controlling. I didn't want anybody to touch my business. I didn't want anybody to make mistakes, and I was miserable. So now when I have someone, even if it's not something that I'm trying to focus on, and they say they want more responsibility in a certain area, I'm like, great.
Here you go.
Do it. You do it. You come back to me. You tell me what you need. I'll make sure you have it. And so I think in allowing people to grow where they want to go, instead of growing where I just see my business need, it allows them to develop a lot more I mean, this is a job where there's so many things you can do with dogs.
Yeah.
You can do sports trials. You can do police work. You can do basic obedience training. You can do socialization. So if at the end of the day, they don't, like, we focus on behavior, we focus on socialization. And that is very draining for a lot of people. And some people get there and find out that that's not what they want to do. And they may leave entirely. But this person may find out that they want to do something that's just a little, like, I want to do more traditional obedience. Well, those are people that are on our wait list that are looking for that. And maybe that's not what I love, but I think you should explore that with these people within our company and see if that's something that we can offer for them. Right. So I try to take advantage of what they are good at, what they excel at, and where they want to go, because I don't know, could be good for us.
I love that model. That's exactly what we're trying to do as well. And something you mentioned that I think is big for those who are just starting a business, and that, they're growing, and they want to get to where they want to start scaling, and basically that takes delegating and all that, but it's hard to delegate, especially when you've grown the baby by yourself, and it's, they're not going to do it up to 100%. It's only gonna be 80. That's tough for some people to get over. What was it that helped you get over that, to where you were okay with maybe things not being 100% up to how you would do it, but they're up to 80%, the client's happy, which has allowed you to really start scaling your business and start making revenue on things that you're not even touching, someone else can. How hard was that?
Well, I had a client that I really wanted to help because it would have been beneficial for my business. And they gave me some very honest feedback. And she said, when I look at your website, it looks like you only work with aggressive dogs, and our dog isn't like that. And I was like, oh my gosh, how many people feel this way and haven't said anything to me? And I went and I hired someone. And I paid them buckets of money to organize my business, streamline everything. And he did the same thing for me. Like, what do you not enjoy anymore? Great. You don't do any of that. You do these 3 things. And by letting go of a lot of the stuff that was getting in the way, I was trying to be everything for everyone and saying, I can help you. And I can, but I don't. There are a lot of people out there who can help in a lot of different areas. I don't have to do everything. And so then when it came to, how was I going to scale my business, and how was I going to address this huge wait list I have? He built funnels for me for everything, from the website down to how we delegate to our employees. Everything is very organized now. And so when we hired our new people, I hired 6 people in the last year. I fired 2. And it was because they didn't fit the need of the company. And it wasn't personal, but they either didn't have the skill or they didn't have the heart. And when you have that situation, it's hard for the rest of the team to perform their best. And so when we removed those people, our current team members were able to grow a lot more, and we were able to give them a lot more responsibility. And now I'm more concerned about each day being as fulfilling as it can be for the dogs and the humans and the owners, and less concerned about what my business is benefiting. And then the byproduct is my business benefits.
It's funny
So
how that works, right?
when I stop looking at what am I getting out of all of this, and I start putting the people first and the dogs, it's just kind of something that's happened naturally. I think I've changed as a leader. And I tell them all the time, I'm like, the girl who taught my husband is completely different. I was desperate. I needed help now. And he learned from a drill sergeant, which is how I learned, which is a whole nother issue. But so when I teach these girls, I tell them, and I just say the girls because they happen to all be women. We don't have a lot of men that apply for the job. I don't know why that is. But, and I tell them every day, I go, you're allowed to make mistakes, which was not okay.
Before this whole,
I had like,
sorry,
when I found out I was becoming a mother, it changed a lot of things for me and how I taught people. And I became a lot more compassionate.
Isn't it crazy how that happens? I mean, even before yes to everything, let's take meetings, do as much as we can. And ever since, even when Haley got pregnant, didn't really hit, but the last 2 months of the pregnancy, it was just like, all right, well, I can't be saying yes to everything. We've learned how to delegate. I've learned how to delegate better to the team. And I try to do as much as I could. And how much has, outside of the business being able to grow and other people being happy, what has that done to your happiness?
Oh my gosh, leaps and bounds. I think I just found something, and I don't want to say that my business isn't important, but I think when it is the only important thing that is important to you for so long, and you live and you breathe it and you wake up to it and you fall asleep to it and you dream about it, and it is the most important thing, and you sacrifice your personal time and you sacrifice your relationship. And then, being married, it got better. We got married October of 2019. So the pandemic hit probably 5 months later. Yeah. And we had buckets of travel planned for 2020. We were going to go all over the place. And that was my way of making my marriage a priority over my business. But then COVID happened, right? Yeah. And then we couldn't go anywhere. And we were already used to being in the house together 24 hours a day. And our business wasn't slowing down, so nothing was changing. And then I was like, well, if nothing's going to change and we can't go anywhere, let's have a baby, which sounds great in theory. And then, as time went on and you start to realize that okay, I work with dogs. I work with things that have teeth. I'm not going to be able to take a traditional leave. I'm not going to be able to. People all the time talk about oh, I'm afraid for my dog to be around your baby. And I'm like, you think your dog's going to be around my baby? My dogs aren't going to be around my baby. But it just changed everything for me. There was finally, and I don't recommend getting pregnant to have something more important than your business. But for me, there was a real tangible thing happening that had to be prioritized. There was no choice anymore. Yeah. I was forced to change. Yeah. And I was forced to change how I lived with my business on a daily basis. Yeah. And it's a lot easier to put away the computer. And I think that, I had a mentor who was very harsh on me and created a lot of damage in trying to help. And I think what I learned from that situation was I never wanted to be like that towards other people. And so when we brought on these team members and we started to grow, instead of saying, what can I get out of them? I wanted to be someone that was like, what do you need? What do you need to be successful? Because every minute, and this is something that I learned and I became really resentful in my career in the beginning, was people would say it's not personal. And I'm like, but it is personal, because every minute that I spend with your dog, I could be doing something with mine.
Yeah.
I could be training mine. I could be spending time with my husband. I could be doing X, Y, Z, but I'm not. I'm here with you and you're wasting my time. And they're like, oh, that's not personal. So when I brought on team members, I was very much aware and grateful that every single moment that they were with me, regardless of taxes or payroll or whatever I pay them, that's still life currency. And they could be anywhere else in the world and they choose to be here with us. And that is very important to me. And I want to respect that.
Yeah.
Which was, I learned how to do that because I had a mentor who was like, you're lucky I showed up. And I was like, well, you're a jerk. Nobody likes you.
That's a tough mentor.
Yeah.
But I mean, on that note, I mean, it literally the last like 5 episodes, a huge piece of growth has been mentorship. I mean, all of it mainly being positive. And even though you've had some negative stuff, I mean, it sounds like you still value mentorship, because it sounds like that's what you do with your employees as well. I mean, how big is mentorship to you in growing the business, but also how big is mentoring your employees on growing their happiness, and also the business comes with it as well?
Well, I think that when you work with dogs, like if you were doing the same thing in 5 years from now and you didn't grow at all as with EIC, and 5 years from now you're still at the same table asking the same questions, you probably wouldn't be fulfilled.
Yeah.
That's the word. Entire chunks of vocabulary. So for me, if I'm doing the same thing 5 years from now, I'm not being fulfilled. And the only way to problem solve and to get better is to get input from other people. So even though I've been working with dogs for 7 years, roughly, I still get input from other people. One, I need to take a break from the output, but also I need to see new ways of doing things. And they may have been around for a long time, but they're new for me. And then I think that it's important to bring that knowledge back to the team. And so one of the biggest things we do with our employees is I tell them, watch other people, find out who's having seminars. I will send you as long as you report back. And I don't think that there's no bad workshop or seminar to go to. You may go somewhere and find out someone isn't as cool as they look on Instagram, right? There's a lot of Instagram educators, and you may go and find out that they don't know what they're doing. So check it off the list and move on and stop thinking about it. So I think that it solves a couple problems. I think there's this, at least with the dog training industry, people fall victim to, oh, my content's not as good as theirs. And I look at them and I'm like, that person has someone who follows them around and records every consultation and everything they do with the dog. And that's a lot of money. I know what that costs because I've paid someone to make content for me, and they've earned that spot, and that person has been around for a lot longer. So you can't compare yourself to those people, but you can go and learn from them and find out if their walk matches their talk, because you can be very good at business and not very good with dogs and still have a booming company. Yeah. But, anyone can build a website and say they do something.
Yeah. But can you execute?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What are your results?
Yep, exactly. And I mean, that being said, you talk about results. You mentioned different KPIs as the business is growing, whether it's financials or happiness. I mean, how big have analytics and data played a role in the growth of your business?
I think right now, there was a time probably a year ago, right before 2020, that was like the one thing I was looking at, because this was supposed to be our big year. We were supposed to grow. We were supposed to expand. We were supposed to just kill it, right? And that's not what happened. I mean, we grew, the pet industry grew tremendously. I mean, if you've ever ordered from Chewy.com, it took 6 weeks to get your dog food. They made a lot of money. They made some big kid
anything digital
retail money.
Yeah.
This year, I wasn't as worried about the online performance side of things. Like, I would look at it and be impressed that, like, oh, yeah,
Look at that.
Yeah, we got a lot of inquiries today, or we had got a lot of traffic today. And when something does well, I was very happy. But because I didn't have the support because I didn't have the team members to support the growth, I didn't want to
overanalyze, spend too much time when it's not even gonna bring anything.
Right. So as I am getting ready to go on my maternity, those are the things that I'm going to be looking at. I'm looking at, right now we have a really huge territory. So we're called Dogs of Scottsdale, but we have clients in Central Phoenix. We have clients in Gilbert. We have clients all over. So I'm looking at breaking that up into different territories, having, more specific service areas. And that's where the analytics are going to come in. So what am I going to prioritize? Is it Phoenix? Is it Scottsdale? Is it, all of that? And then we just recently had a change in our team. And we had a team member she's a film student at ASU. And she said, I really want to do your social media. I really want to do your like Instagram and your TikTok. And I was like, I haven't even downloaded TikTok because I can't have another thing on my plate that I start and can't fulfill. Yeah. And so when we had this change in team members, I was like, great. Like and she's been begging for hours. She's like, I can work weekends. I can do this. I can do that. And I'm like, I know. I just don't have anything for you right now. And what it did was it opened up an opportunity for her to shine. And I'm really excited for her to focus on those things because I had someone last week reach out to me and she was telling me that she didn't like something my brand posted. And I was like, okay, so you're going to look at like one story and she doesn't even have a dog. She doesn't even have a dog. And she's like, my friend read it and her feelings were hurt. And so she's not going to reach out to you. And like, what I wanted to say was like, cool, we have a 90 dog wait list. Like,
yeah,
have fun with that. Yeah. But really what I came across is what I ultimately ended up saying to her was, like, I don't have to be the one for everybody. And I am not responsible for how people feel let me rephrase that. I am responsible for how people feel when they read my content in the sense that I don't want to bully anyone. I don't want to shame anyone. I'm obviously not trying to alienate people. But if something is misinterpreted, that may be someone that has a level of sensitivity that I'm not prepared to work with right now. And it's okay for me to say that, right? Yep. So, and she was like, well, your page is your whole brand and this, that, and the other. And I was like, you do something completely different than what I do. And I don't think that I appreciate the input, but it wasn't the same kind of feedback as when I got that person who said about my website, like, we don't want to work with you because it looks like you only do this. Like, it wasn't life shattering for me in that way. So like, I can look at the input and say, is this valuable? Is this not valuable? Yeah. And put it in its funnel.
No, but I mean, that's figuring out where you spend your time. That's huge on how much do you debate this person that's responding to you, to bringing on someone that can take on social, to starting other channels and stuff like that. I mean, that being said, you got a little one on the way, you just got married not too long ago. I mean, when it comes to prioritizing, figuring out what to say yes to, how do you do that?
I say no first. Because I always tell everyone, like with the dogs, you have no business saying yes unless you've said no. So people will come to me and say, should my dog be allowed on the couch? And I go, well, can you tell them not to be on the couch? No. Okay, well, then first teach them to not be on the couch. And then when you feel like it, you can teach them how to be on the couch. So I immediately, almost anytime someone asks me to do something that is a time commitment, I say no. And then I think about it. So I practice I don't really think that that's something that I can do right now. So then if I decide later down the road that it is something I can do,
smart,
then I say yes. But I think that it was because for so long I said yes to everything. And that's what led to the like critical unhappiness.
What changed? Like, what was it that you said yes to everything that finally got you to say, you know what? Was it that I'm just sick of feeling this way? I'm sick of feeling stretched thin every single day. I'm sick of... What was it that got you to go from saying yes all the time to that, you know what, let's say no more? So I'm literally like right in the middle of that right now. I'm bad at just saying yes to everything. And I want to help everyone. I like making content with people. I like helping, but I need to get better at saying no.
This may not happen to you, but I was bit by a dog and I had to have 2 hand surgeries in 5 days. And
Ouch.
was out of work for a very long time. And that's because my clients bite me and have teeth. But really, it was more that like, this was a client that I knew I should have, I don't want to say fired because that's mean, but this was a client that I knew I wasn't helping anymore. But the hard part with our industry is when you tell the human I can't help you, it's the dog who suffers.
Yep.
So we live with this guilt that if I don't help this person, the dog is going to suffer. But I had it was very expensive. I was in the hospital for 5 days. And then I couldn't work for 6 weeks. And so by doing this one thing, I paid a really severe consequence. Like I almost lost the use of my right hand. Like
Wow.
months of physical therapy, I couldn't make a fist. You have to have a fist to hold a leash.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that was probably the first thing that made things change. And then it just was everything layered on top of that. Like you get burned, you get burned, you get burned, you get burned. And then one day I was like, I'm just going to tell everybody no until things slow down. And COVID made it a lot easier.
Yeah. I mean, it's easier to say.
Oh, COVID. Sorry. You can't work here anymore, COVID. Like you know, we don't have time, COVID. And then I think the baby thing, like that was there was like 3 things: huge injury, pandemic,
and then a baby.
life event. Yeah, right. So and short of all 3 of those things, I think I would have kept going. And I would have kept digging my hole of solitude.
More thin.
My little velvet rut. I would have been really happy in it. And I probably ultimately would have, it would have very negatively impacted my marriage.
Yeah.
And I really like my husband.
It's usually a good thing.
Yeah.
It's usually a good thing.
He's my best friend.
He's a cool dude.
So I think if I lost that, it would have been devastating.
Yeah.
So I'm grateful for all of those things because I would rather be bitten by a dog, stuck at home for a year with a baby.
Mm-hmm.
Not that that's bad. It's a good thing. Then lost everything.
Yeah. No, and that's literally kind of what I'm seeing now. It's just like how many more nights is always gonna be like, oh, just this one more thing. And so it's I mean, kind of self-recognizing that it's need to have some of these buckets of time where it was like 98% work and maybe 2% family. And I mean, Aileen's been great. I mean, has been trying to grow something here. But I mean, as time goes on, it's got to recalibrate and reallocate your time based off of where needs are, one personally, family and business wise and all that. And so,
yeah, I'm a sufferer. Like I will suffer, not silently, but I will experience unhappiness for a great period of time before something changes. And I think that like, I don't know. It was literally like I woke up one morning and I was like, you know what? And maybe it's I have a 2018 Chrysler Pacifica and it has 100,000 miles on it. I've driven 100,000 miles in 2 years.
That is a lot.
That's a lot of miles.
Driving.
It's a lot of time on the road.
Especially it's only here in the valley. Like it's not even cruising up to Canada. Like I would think they're going back and forth to the East Coast, like on the daily.
I'm driving in tiny circles
That
through
would be
Scottsdale and Central Phoenix. And you know what? Like at some point you're like, I'm risking car accidents. I don't cook anymore because I get home. I was getting home at the end of the day and like Texas, they know us at Texas Roadhouse because, you know, you get to the end of the day and you're so depleted because working with the dogs, it's not just like sitting there and watching them play. It's guiding their social experience. And a lot of one of the things we did this year was if you've ever looked at a dog wrong, you're wearing a muzzle. Because you're not supposed to be in the hospital right now. If I get even an accidental bite, which happens, you know, I can't go on a bunch of medication.
Yeah.
If I lose a team member right now to a hand injury, the whole plan goes out the window. I keep hitting this.
Oh, you're good.
The whole plan goes out the window. So the risk was so high that I stopped caring that clients would say like, oh, why is my dog on a muzzle? Well, because your dog has teeth and occasionally it likes to use them. And I'm not putting our team members at risk anymore. Like it just became, I don't know, I think, COVID and becoming a mom. I just was like, it's not, if it doesn't work for you, then find someone else who does it.
Yeah. No, it's from just doing a lot, learning and figuring out how to take some of that wisdom and just do better. And all that being said, I mean, you've so many ups, so many downs. It's, I mean, just like every entrepreneur, it's a roller coaster. I mean, what's been the biggest, I guess, hurdle that you've faced growing the business, and how did you overcome it?
I think it was just the beginning. Like I did so much stuff for free in the beginning. I was like, can I work with your dog? Can I videotape it? Can I use it as content? Can I, in terms of growth, it was literally just like convincing people that they could give me their dog. so that I could show that I was capable. And I mean, the internal struggle part was because I had a mentor that was so controlling and so worried about, he got very worried about people copying his work or using his words. And I'm like, you can't trademark someone else's quote, first of all. Yeah. And second, like I paid a lot of money for this education and I'm going to use it and I'm not going to sit here and be your fangirl for, like I'm perfectly capable. So I think because he spent so much time convincing me that I needed more and more knowledge and more and more knowledge and more and more knowledge, I began to doubt my ability in myself. And I really devalued what I was worth. And it wasn't until I hired that business consultant to come in and change everything for me that he was like, dude, let that go. Yeah. Like I needed to hire someone that said, it doesn't matter. Let it go. Great. We're not going to talk about it because it doesn't matter. Let it go. Let it go. So I needed someone to tell me like, you have value and you're undervaluing yourself, and people around you with less experience are charging more. And when you devalue yourself, you're depriving the people who need you of the service that they are looking for.
Yeah. I mean, it's psychological.
So that was a huge psychological jump for me. And I think also I worked with a lot of rescues and, I love rescue dogs. Mm-hmm. God bless rescue organizations. Mm-hmm. They do work that I can't and won't do. Right. Unfortunately, they are the hardest to work with because they don't let go of the dog's past. They don't look at what the dog is capable of in the future. And they drive the story, right? Like, oh, this dog, we found it in Mexico. It has 1.5 legs. It has no fur. And then every time someone introduces that dog to someone, the dog is forced to relive this emotional and psychological trauma. And then someone like me comes in and is like, hey, you got to let that go in order to move forward. Like, it doesn't matter what happened in the first 6 weeks of its life. What have you been doing for the last, 4 years? And it's really, I spent so much time trying to help people that didn't want help that it came to the point for me where I said, I don't help rescues anymore. And if somebody wants to pay me to take a dog and surrender a dog to me and I'll adopt it out my own way, I'll do that. But there was also a big expectation that I was supposed to sacrifice. Like, I have 4 personal dogs. Yeah. So if you ask me to take a dog for free, like, I am now financially responsible for doing my services, feeding it, vetting it, finding someone who can adopt it, training them. And that can take years. I had 4 foster dogs for over 18 months. Wow. And it was extremely expensive. And I took care of them. So when I took that part of my business out, because I thought I was supposed to do that, it created 4 spots for people or for dogs who had owners who were already willing to work with them, who were already willing to let go of the story. So I was able to help more dogs by letting go of this segment of dogs that I personally was not effective with. Other people are great at that. Like I have colleagues that take care of some of the most severe neglect cases, and the world would not turn without them. But that world turns fine without me, if that makes any sense. No. So there needs to be someone who does it. It just can't be me.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's, and that's what makes it tough. It's the opportunity cost. And it's to your point, one, I mean, the financial burden, all that's one thing, but the opportunity of actually serving 4 other dogs that they would enjoy it. Their owners are actually bought in and everything like that. It allowed you to not get in front of them and actually serve who you want to serve, that fulfills on that happiness, which I think it's tough because it's you don't realize what could be, because you're in the middle of this situation now where saying no, knowing who you want to go after, all that type of stuff, all of a sudden the epiphany starts happening when those opportunities start coming in. Then it's like, wow, this is who I want to align with more. Right. And it's tough. But
it was hard because people would be like, oh, they'd be like, oh, I found this. Or I have one lady was like, I have a golden retriever. It bit my kid. And I'm like, so I'm supposed. And I said, it costs X amount of dollars for you to surrender your pet to me. I'll rehabilitate it. I'll find it an appropriate home. I'll teach the people how to maintain everything that I've taught the dog. And she was like, I can't believe that you would charge. And I'm like, I'm having a kid. You want me to take? Yeah. So I had to learn that just because I can doesn't mean I should. And it doesn't mean that, like, I had to learn that people were in their own desperate situation. And having come from a desperate situation, not everyone gets picked to be on Caesar 911. But I can't help everybody. And if I spend all of this time trying to help people, it really deprives, the rest of the community from what they need. And that kind of ties into why I made the changes that I made with the business this year, because I learned that by focusing so hard on these 2 or 3 people and their dogs, everyone else was suffering.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's amazing how much more clarity just comes out once you can start kind of prioritizing where your time goes, saying no. And that's something I'm working on big time. But no, I mean, this has been great. I mean, as we kind of wrap up, I mean, for those that might be trying to start their own business, they're kind of struggling to really get the ball rolling. I mean, is there any, I guess, what's the biggest piece of advice that you'd have for any entrepreneur that's kind of starting out or kind of getting things going that just isn't where they want to be yet?
Don't forget you started because you were looking for happiness. And don't let the business take over your whole life. Those would be my 2. I guess it's more than one. Don't let the business be your whole life. Like, you are still a human at the end of the day that has a lot of different needs that need to be fulfilled in order to have a good output. And if you aren't having those things fulfilled, the work that you're putting out is not going to be what you dreamed it was going to be. It will suffer. Yeah. So be good to yourself.
Yeah. Really. Respect yourself, respect your time. It's hard. It's hard. Yeah. But no, this has been great. It's amazing how far you've come, but it seems like you're picking up steam now, and it's only, I mean, you're going to grow like crazy. I mean, especially with the wait list, it's,
Yeah, and if anybody wants to learn, I'll teach you.
You start running some ads to get some employees.
I should.
Some employment ads.
I think that we'll need to do that.
Well, I thank you so much for your time. I look forward to seeing the little one being born, and look forward to the play dates that are in our near future.
Awesome. Can't wait.
Thank you.
Thank you.